We are live. We are live. And with that said, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Discreet. Good morning,
Good
Disha.
morning, Mike. You all
Good
right?
morning, man. Hey, I'm well. Y'all doing
Good.
well? Y'all doing well?
Yeah.
That's a good
Is our
thing.
guest doing well? That's the main thing.
Yes. Is our guest doing well? Disha, how are you doing today? We're gonna give you a proper introduction, but before we go any further, we want to make sure that you're doing well. How's things your way today?
I'm doing good. It's my day off. It was raining last night, so I stayed in the house. So yeah, it's a great day. Business as usual. I have a couple of meetings, so just light work today, relaxation Sunday, chill with the family a little bit, but
There
no
you
big
go.
plans for
Sounds
today.
good.
Today is a good day.
I could appreciate, hey man, hallelujah to that on a Sunday. Enjoy the day off, and with that said, everybody, we're gonna give a quick little introduction here to Disha, but just a quick little reminder to you all. If you are joining us again, or if you are joining us for the first time, we're the We Outside live cast where we come out and we have authentic, organic conversation with our guests on these special guest Sundays. No different than we're going to have with Disha Young Thang today,
Exactly.
because we like to have conversation with people who are real, who are visionaries, who are creatives, who are making moves, who have belief in what it is they do and
Mm,
themselves, because you could learn a lot from those type of people. And we just love having conversations with like-minded individuals, such as we are
definitely.
going today to do today with Disha. Y'all might have seen her a couple of weeks with us when we had Charlie and Passion Projects 2020 on. But we had to bring Disha on for her own show. And
Yes.
here's the reason why. Here's the reason why, Disha. And I haven't had this conversation with Disha yet either. So again, when we say
Mhm.
it's authentic and organic, nothing is scripted other than the roundabout time where we're going to get together and who we're going to have on the guest. So this is why we wanted to have you on, Disha, because we briefly talked on the show last month about how you and I first came to meet each other, right? At that Content Thursday night where I performed. It was your show. You threw it. And one thing that struck me and really had never left my mind, so it was really dope because we had tried to link up months ago, back in like September, October, and our schedules were just hella crazy busy where we wanted to get you on the show. And then it was really funny that you ended up being the person that came on the show with Charlie, because I wasn't connecting the dots at the point until you popped on, and then you were like, "Yo," and I was like, "Yo." It was like that spider. It was like that Spider-Man meme, right? Um, but the reason I wanted to get you on today, no different than I wanted to get you on, months ago, because after I got to meet you on that Content Thursday night in Oklahoma City, I walked away and I talked with my wife Chelsea about it. I was like, man, I was like, this woman really has her shit together. Like you put a dope event together. You really put a dope event together. And you could just tell. And I've been in hospitality since I was 11 years old in my life. All right, so that's we're talking 30 plus years. I've been in some form of hospitality or customer service or something like that.
Mhm.
And you are an individual that struck me, knowing what I know about, just that the hospitality business and industry as a whole, and promoting and putting on events and shit like that you do, because you're somebody who wears many hats that we're going to talk about today. But having that experience that night with you just showed me, I was like, yo, this is what it's about. This is someone who not only believes in what they're putting out there, but they have the belief in themselves to really execute something special and something strong. And I really mean that, because it was
Mm.
a dope event. I was the first to perform, and I stayed the whole entire rest of the way. And we got to chop it up that night, and I was really appreciative then, and I'm really appreciative now, especially with how much more I've gotten to know you. So I'm gonna be honest, that's probably the longest introduction I've ever given for a guest, but it was warranted. It was
Mm.
warranted, like straight up, man. And there's a lot more. We're gonna peel back the layers of the onions a little bit as well. But that's why I wanted to get you on the show, Disha. So now, with that said, I'm gonna turn it over to you and let you properly introduce yourself in your own thoughts and your own words. Let the outsiders know who you are and what it is.
Okay, so yeah, I'm Disha Young Thang. You can follow me on Facebook under Disha Young Thang, Instagram Disha BBY _ Onyx Entertainment. I'm an event coordinator, a visionary, a booking agent, a graphic design artist, and so I kind of pretty much help people put the pieces together. You know,
Mm,
whether putting a show together, whether it's putting on a fashion show, an artist showcase, a concert, a wedding, a birthday party. I'm there to make it all happen. So
mm,
I do wear many hats, and it's odd that the event that you have met me at, because like in my eyes that event was like a total disaster because there was just so much behind the scenes that was going on. The air, they didn't turn on the air before we had came. The bathroom was having some problems. So there was a lot of things going on behind the scenes. I think there was another show that day, and so a lot of people didn't show up till real late.
Mm-hmm.
But um, I definitely think that it's an experience, and I think that every show that I put together is that way because I do want to take care of my people. It is about the artists. And the entrepreneur's experience with me because I want to take care of you. I want to make sure you had fun. Even if it's just a few people gathering, some of those small, intimate gatherings have been some of the best times of my life.
mm.
And just really being able to network and talk to people. Sometimes when it's so crowded, you can't talk to people.
Mm-hmm.
No, no.
For
And
me,
it definitely sounds like the type of thing where no two events are the same.
definitely. So
Mm,
you win some and you lose some. I've been doing this a long time. I've had events where we've had to tell people, hey, that we can't take any more people. And then I've had events where I'm on the phone like, where are you at?
yeah.
um, it can go both ways, and you just kind of have to learn how to roll with the punches. And I think that's just any business, any entrepreneur that's in business for themselves. You win some and you lose some. But I try to stay grounded in the things that I can accomplish. I try to tell people straight up, hey, this isn't going to work, or this could particularly work. So I'm hella honest. I try to be a key, an asset to whatever someone else has got going on. But when I first started, it was always me. I was doing this, I
Mm-hmm.
was doing that, I was doing this, I was doing that.
Mm,
And I don't know, I get more pleasure out of coming on someone else's project and making it happen. I
mm,
I get more from someone coming to me and being like, Disha, what are we gonna do? And me being like, okay, let's put the pieces together and let's figure it out. I get more from that than I ever did throwing my own events and kind
mm,
of with my own ideas.
No, I can appreciate that. And something that you said in the beginning really hit me when you said, the event that we had originally met at, just like how, kind of behind the scenes, things were just crazy going on. And I've seen it from that side of things as well. But it's really dope because it shows, to me through my eyes, because everybody has a different opinion, right? But from my experience and, my general feedback from living on that side of the fence that you were living on that day and that night,
Hmm.
you hit it very well. You hit it very well. You did, because for some people, man, it ain't man, they're as they say, wearing their emotions on their sleeves, honestly. And I mean that from the standpoint that you were popping around all night long talking to people and networking as well. So as much as shit was going on, wearing the many hats, you wore the hat that you needed to wear in the moment, but you also made sure that, this is I'm gonna make sure that I'm getting out of it what I, want it to be for everybody, including myself, and that's networking, right? Because that's how we get to that next level. That's how we build a team that we can rely on and build a long-term partnership with, right? And I think you did a beautiful job of that because, man, it's not easy. And also, I took from that we are the ones who are real with themselves, who can really look themselves in the mirror or give themselves some constructive criticism sometimes, we're our own worst enemy because we care that much about it. And you said, it felt like to me that night, man, that show sucked. That show sucked. But again, it's whose perception is it coming from, right?
Exactly.
Because the
Reckon
energy, right,
all,
Discreet? Like,
yeah, I reckon all the problems that you saw, like nobody else was seeing it, and it was just you stressing about it. Do you know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I feel
and
like that at a lot of events. I'll be so stressed out after the event. My friends is like, "What's wrong?" Like,
Yeah.
I'm like, "Girl, there was so much stuff going on."
Yeah.
no,
But
it's crazy, but it's a
that's
matter of
credit to you
executing.
that you got through it and it all went well. And like you're the only person who sounded like knew any of it.
Right. I try to keep it that way, and I think
Mm,
every business owner should, never let the customer see you sweat and
Yep.
keep going
exactly.
about that, So,
Mm.
yeah, I mean, I've had worse happen. So, like I said, I've seen the good and the bad and the ugly when it comes to putting on events. I've been blessed though to be able to see the good, bad, and the ugly because not everybody gets to, not everybody because a bad show isn't a learning experience, and if
Mm.
you had a bad show, if you never had nothing go wrong, then you might not know what to do when something does go wrong.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
for the stumble, I'm grateful for things like that. Maybe not at the time, but
No.
you know
But later on, like you say, now you've experienced it and you can learn from it. And if it does happen again, you'll be more prepared.
most definitely.
Isn't it?
No, it is a learning experience, and we just take what we can from it because there's certain things
Mm.
that are out of our control, right? So, like you were saying a few moments ago, Disha, just gotta roll with it sometimes, control what you can,
Yeah.
because we could still, even the best of us who are proactive or have, plans in place for shit that goes awry, we could still only control so much, right? So, in certain instances, we're forced to be reactive. And I think that's the real judge of like somebody that really has their shit together, right? Because some people are going to literally fold and freak the fuck out and lose their shit. And
Yeah.
trust me, I know all three of us have seen that in some way, shape, or form, whether it's
Oh,
been,
yeah.
the entertainment industry, at a show, at our job, in life with a
Yeah.
family member or a friend or something like that. Like people lose their shit, right? So, and there's many a times where I'm sure each of the three of us have wanted to do that. So to be able to work through that,
Mm.
that's something next level because that takes a level of poise, of patience, of so many things. Like we could probably do a whole show on just that alone,
Oh,
honestly, right?
definitely. I've been in that moment where I've kept my shit together and not blown apart. And I've been in that moment where I have lost my shit. So yeah, I've seen both sides of the fence.
Man, ain't that the truth? Disha, I got a question for you. Where did you and definitely want to get into like how your company came to be as well. Well, where did
Yeah.
you really get this start into leading yourself into, like you said, the many facets of entertainment, service industry from the standpoint of being a booking agent, graphic design artist, so many hats as you had mentioned at the top of the conversation that you talked about. Where did that all start and kind of begin for you?
Yeah.
Okay, so I think that really started with a breakup. I was married, I got divorced, I moved to the city. I had always wrote poetry, so I was really like deep into writing then. I was writing a lot, just all the time, writing, writing, writing. And I started, doing a little bit of music, and I told myself, like I need help. Like I need an engineer. I knew the things that I needed. But I really didn't know the people, the connects to kind of make that happen. Um, the more that I kind of sat within myself, the more I was like, you know what? I could make that happen. Like
Yeah.
I could bring people together, I could be an asset to this industry. Um, so I started small. I started doing reviews. A lot of people do not remember that. but all I did was reviews on Facebook, on people's businesses, people's products, people's shows, people's music. So when I first started, that's what I did. And then I started making merch. So I made hats, I made shirts, for, artists and different entrepreneur groups that were doing things in the city. And then I just started making my own things. Like I would just take somebody's company and put their logo on the back of my shirt and be like, like,
Yep.
so that's kind of how I first kind of started getting some leeway in, the industry. I was seeing someone at the time, and he said, "Hey," he said, "me and my friend, we got this show going on tonight, and the girl that was supposed to work the door can't show up." He was like, "Could you work the door?" And I was like, "Yeah." And I ended up working the door at that event. I met a lot of people. I loved the energy. I just loved the environment. It made me feel good,
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I was in a new city. I didn't really know a lot of people here. And I said, you know what? I was like, I think I could do this. Like, and it was still in the back of my mind, because I was still doing my reviews and everything.
Yep.
I had ended up going to another event. After that event, the owner had reached out to me and he was like, "Hey," he was like, "someone told me that you were interested in throwing events." He was like, "I have a space, we're throwing events here now. I would love for you to put some things together to kind of bring some revenue in." And I'm like, dope. So I think it was like, I put that out like, "Hey, anybody wants a party thrown?" That's what I said at first, a party. And someone contacted me, and I did, Dennis, his name was Dennis. I did his birthday party. It was a big ordeal, and we had dancers. I decorated. So I feel like everybody just had a wonderful time. Everybody was like, "That was so dope, like you got to do this again." And that's how it all started, from throwing that birthday party. I then went into throwing comedy shows. After I did the comedy shows, I moved on to the artist showcase. And that kind of stuck. The artist showcase stuck with me. And, I've been riding ever since. So,
Man,
It's wicked.
I love
Love
it,
it.
and I love the grind, and I appreciate it, and it reminds me, discreet, of what we were talking about yesterday, right? We were talking about specifically Ice Cube, Disha, because on Saturdays we do our hip hop history, and Ice Cube, the anniversary of Ice Cube's first album, America's Most Wanted, from May 15th, 1990, came up, and that led to a conversation of somebody being more than what somebody knows them as, right? Like Ice Cube back in the day being a rapper, but like, talk about an entrepreneur and being able to put yourself in an opportunistic scenario to, where he's led himself to be. And everything that you discussed, that beginning journey very much reminds me of somebody like his, because that's the same thing. Like, for an entrepreneur, like my experience as an entrepreneur, it seems very similar to yours, Disha, in the sense of like, you start somewhere.
Yeah.
You find yourself right the street into different scenarios, and you meet new people, and you're like, all right, well, hey, the network, your tribe, so to speak, starts to build itself out, right?
Yeah, it's funny because I I got into all this when I got divorced as well, and I sat down. I was in my toilet, and I was thinking, right, what do I need to do here? And it was just like you were saying. It's like, right, I need to do this, and then you look at it and you think, I could do this. And everything I've set out to do so far, I've done what I wanted to do.
right.
Well,
Well,
and I
every
think
initial parts anyway.
And that's what I tell people. I just had a meeting the other day, and I told someone, they're an artist and they're okay. They put the work in, you know, they create the music, they have the look, they put the work in, they're doing the music videos. And I just had to stop and be like, is this really for you though? I get that you can do it. But is it for you? Are you an artist? Because I can rap, I can write a poem, but am I an artist? I'm not. That's not who I am. And it doesn't embody me. Something I like to do for fun. It's something I like to do for stress relief. But no, I don't want to be on stage. I don't want to. And finding your niche, finding where
Mm,
you fit is something that people struggle with, you know. And it's a journey, and you may not start how you finish, you know.
mm,
So I would
exactly.
encourage everyone to, you know, take the time to really find out where they fit.
Yes, I totally agree with that because I've tried loads of little things whilst I've been making beats, which I know I just absolutely love it. But there's other little things that I've tried, like graphic designing and stuff like logos, and I find there's parts of it that I find very frustrating, and that
Mm.
makes me. I get less enthusiastic then, but I never get that with making music, if you know what I mean. So it's like when I done that, I worked out. I thought I don't love doing this as much as I love making beats. So do you know what I mean? It's very true what you're saying.
And I think that's the beauty in discovery and going on that
Yeah.
journey that you were just mentioning, Disha, because
Mm,
it's like I think it was Wayne Gretzky that said it. You miss 100% of the shots that you don't take,
mm.
and that's so true. So like if you at least go through the process of trying so many different
Trying
things,
something. Yeah.
even if it leads to something that you started doing leads to something else that you're just like, hey, this seems interesting. Let me explore it a little
Yeah.
bit. You might
Yeah.
find that that's really the case, or like you were just saying, discreet. You might find, nah, I really love
Yeah, let
making
me try
beats.
this. Yeah, and then you get going and you think, oh, I'm not loving this as much as I thought I would. Do you know what I
Well, and
mean?
I think that's the beauty that comes with, like Disha was saying in that scenario where she was talking to somebody who's a rapper and it's like, hey, is this something that you really want to do?
Exactly. Yeah.
Being honest with others as well as being honest with ourselves on what
Yeah,
our
with
journeys
yourself as
are,
well.
right? You
Yeah.
Yeah,
have to be able to call it self-diagnose, self-critique,
Mm,
really break it down in a way where you can just be real with yourself. And
right.
there's nothing wrong with going in one direction or the next. I think that's power to you as an individual if you're able to sit there, break some shit down, and be like, "Yo,
yeah, because
that
you're finding
this
out.
this
Right.
is just not for me, and this is why." Hey, I might have an appreciation for it, but I don't want to go down
Mm,
this road.
And
This
it's
road.
a long time to be able to tell people that, to be
mm,
able to give people my read and not um, be afraid of maybe the repercussions or that person's emotions. You know, I want to take the emotion out of it because I'm not going to tell you anything that I feel like is going to um, hold you back from something, you know? So
Hmm.
if I'm giving you this information, if I'm telling you, hey, you know, I get that you enjoy this, but maybe this is not for you. Maybe this is not the path. Maybe like me, I grew up listening to music. I always, you know, when you're a little kid and you kind of go through things and you experience things and you know it really doesn't add up, you know. I'm sure
Yeah.
everyone used to watch videos, I'm sure everyone used to listen to the radio because that's kind of the era that I was brought up in.
Yep.
mm.
But now that I'm here and now I'm behind the scenes saying, hey, no, do the video like this. Hey, no, we need to bring this in and do that. And people are like, how do you know that? And sometimes I don't even know how I know this shit. Like,
Yeah.
it's, um, so,
It comes with the experience where you can just see shit that other people can't in a way.
Yeah.
okay, get this. I get why this was this way and now it's this way. I get why I have this knowledge. You know, I can go to a show and I'm not a DJ. I'm not an expert in sound. I've not been trained. And I could be like, your sound is off. Your speakers is off. You know, you need to
Yeah.
fix what you got to do. But this isn't it, you know. And I just think that it comes from the love of music, from
Yeah.
the sound. The love of creativity. So, you know, like I was saying earlier, you just kind of have to find out where you fit and
Exactly.
kind of fit
Find out
around.
what you're passionate about, basically, innit? Because I find without the passion, like you're not really going to get very far. If you're not passionate about what you're going to do, you're just not. I just can't see how you're going to get far doing something if you're not passionate about doing it.
And if you
Does
think
that
about
make
the
sense?
like that, you know,
Yeah.
about people in my industry, you know, it's the consistency. Consistency is everything. You
Mm,
know, he is, you know, someone else, there could be someone else who throws way better shows and their
mm,
shows packed everybody comes out for them, but how consistent is that? How consistent their show? You might have someone who throws shows every single week and only 20 people show up.
Yeah.
But know that every week that show is going to be there. It's reliable. It's consistent, and people love consistency. Even kids, they'll tell you, kids want consistency. They don't know that they want it, but they want it. They want,
definitely. If you throw a kid a party, then he's been to that party 6 times, and then something's missing from that party the 7th time, you can guarantee a kid will question why something is missing. Definitely.
Right.
It's so true.
Definitely. I feel like when you start going, and I didn't realize that, I started realizing, I'm like, people are coming. They'd be like, episode like Disha Young Thang. I'm like, what?
This is very opening.
I feel like it was I don't know, it was a leap. Like I went from, okay, I'm doing this, like, okay, people are knowing who I am, to everybody knows who you are. Everybody knows what you're doing. I would meet people and they'd be like, it's nice to meet you, like like, your work is amazing. And I'm like, wow, I've been
that's one of the best bits. That is people telling you that you'll do what you're doing it well.
Right.
As LL Cool J once said, doing it and doing it well.
Yes, discreet. LL Cool J did say that. Facts, bro.
Right.
But no, that is one of the favourite things I find anyway. Like when I make a beat and someone else hears it and they go crazy over it, that is one of the best bits about what I do anyway. Like, fuck the money and everything. It's just like, that's one of the best bits.
I feel like sometimes I get hired just for moral support, honestly. Just to be there and be like, yeah, bro, you're doing that right. Yeah, that's what we, sometimes when you're doing something, sometimes you want someone else to be there to be like, okay, yeah. Even when I'm doing something, I would love to be like, is this what we, yeah, okay, bet.
Yep.
Sometimes you need that insurance when you're working and when you're putting together so many moving pieces.
No, I agree, because sometimes there's so many moving pieces, and depending how many things you have going on, like you said, not too long ago, is it once every so often, or is it on a regular basis that I'm offering some type of whatever it is in that given moment, right? I think it's a challenge, especially with somebody like yourself, who lives in the forest sometimes, right? The good old saying, it's hard to see the forest from the trees, or you live in the trees, sorry, and it's hard to see the forest from the trees. It is, unless you're able to have that self-perception to detach sometimes, especially when you're running your own show and all the pieces that come with that.
I'll be back.
Do your thing, discreet. Even if you have to, delegate some of the things, you're still you're the puppeteer, right? You're the puppet master. You're pulling the strings to make sure everything is working. So it takes a special person to pull back and be like, okay, is this cool? What's going on? And I think you're right. I think it's dope if you have somebody else that you can trust, in your scenario, when you're looking for, whether you want to call it validation or just assurance, maybe that, am I staying on point with what I want to do? Is this on brand with what we do? Or no different, somebody, might have you there just to be like, just for the checks and balances, right? That takes a lot of belief.
Control is powerful,
Yo, ain't that the truth? Ain't that the truth?
When you are holding the cards, when you're pulling the strings, control is powerful. And if you don't know how to, some people don't know how to be in control and be a worker too. Some people don't know how to be in control and still talk to everyone else like you're not in control, and work as a team.
No, you're right. There's a certain balance, because too much of anything is a bad thing, right? There's got to be the yin and the yang, and I think you hit the nail on the head. Too much control leads to ego, right? And I want to talk about ego for a second, right? Because ego is a very generic, general word, right? And to do certain things, you have to have an ego. You have to have an ego. However,
go ahead. Self-esteem.
Self-esteem without question, because an ego, many people take on different egos. People take on the egos of being an asshole. People take on the ego of just being that chameleon to handle different certain situations, right? So ego could come in many forms, many shapes, many sizes. It could take on many different characteristics as well, right? So let's just kind of set that as the context for kind of what I want to dive into next, if that's all right with you. How has ego, and this could be, and when we talk through this could be, speaking about your ego, this could be speaking about somebody else's ego, whether it's been somebody you've tried to provide some type of service for, you collabed on a project with, or whatever. How has ego benefited or helped you? And how has ego maybe been a disruptive factor along the way for you, if that makes sense?
I'm back.
Well, I'm a female in a primarily male-dominated industry. In the last few years, I have seen more females, but here in Oklahoma. But I feel like men's ego, I've learned from it. I've been a victim of it. I feel like sometimes people hire me, maybe not all for the right intentions. Oh, she's cute. I be seeing her doing. Let's get her. We'll get that girl. And that's fine. I'll take it. So. A lot of people hire me and then don't take my advice. A lot of people say, "Hey, Disha, you on this project, man?" Da, 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 da.
Yep.
And then when it's on there and starts speaking, ego comes into play. Well, she's not going to come in here and tell us. And well, what'd you hire her for? What is she here for?
Mm-hmm.
And I think the ego thing, it taps into pride.
Yeah.
Events are people's babies, and so, it's kind of hard to be watching the nanny and, well, don't hold the bottle like that. Hold it like this. This is my baby, And that's how ego comes into play with shows and with just work in general, and not trusting your partner. And I've learned to let people do them. I worked for this one guy, and I used to think he was such an ass because he never said a lot. He never said a lot. A whole lot. He was always real quiet. He got a whisper like, "Yeah, everybody, you need to do this, you need to do that." And then a lot of time I would, because I'm like, "Hey, I need to do this," and he would just look at me, and he wouldn't say anything, and it would frustrate me. And I'm like,
I want a response.
Me, but fast forward, we had a conversation a few months after that, and I'm like, "Why are you always ignoring me?" He was like, "I'm not ignoring you." He's like, "When you tell me things," he's like, "I have to register," and he was like, to be like, "Okay, yeah, she's right. She's right." He was like, "So sometimes I don't say anything because I'm thinking, or I'll go back and I'll tell somebody else, hey, yeah, get this done,' or and for me, I feel like he didn't want to say, yeah, you're right. We do need to do that. We do need to get that done.
You think? Do you experience much like what's the word I'm looking for? Like sexist sort of situations. Like I don't know, people maybe hiring you strictly, like you say, because you might be a bit cute, and even though obviously we're all, if anyone compliments you on your looks, you can't help but be sort of, that makes you feel good. But obviously then you've just got to become, right, I'm going to be aware of this sort of thing.
I mean, I do feel like men in the industry do try to, there are some men, I wouldn't say just men. There are some men who have the wrong intentions when it comes to working with me.
Exactly. But I reckon it's quite obvious, isn't it?
Yeah. At the end of the day, give me my money and you're respectful to me. Whatever you got going, working your brain. I have.
Exactly. But I reckon, like, I put myself in a woman's situation. Obviously, I'm not a woman, so I can't actually know. But from a man's perspective, I reckon it must be really easy to know when a man is coming on to you or get there thinking about it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. And I hear a lot that I'm intimidating. Men say I was intimidated. I didn't know what to say. So a lot of
Mm,
the time I throw out hints, but um, you know, usually the men that are just really outspoken with it are men that I would never deal with anyway.
mm, yeah.
I'm like, okay, yeah,
Because let's be real. Sometimes, no pun intended when I say this, sometimes you got to stroke somebody's ego, right? As long as they're not
Yeah.
like being like
Oh, sometimes, yeah.
over the border, like disrespectful.
good to have those type of friends that stroke your ego though.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
We need them.
Yo, it's true, and you're right. It's like I think sometimes, and it's really a matter of something that I took away from that. Number one is communication, right? As long as you have communication, because everybody's going to have some type of ego to do what it is that they do in some way, shape, or
Yeah.
form, right? That's just a fact. That's a given. It's a matter of what we do with that as individuals, right?
Yeah.
But I feel as long as like you were explaining there, Disha, as long as and holy shit, like wow, a light bulb hopefully will go off for somebody watching this now or down the road. This is for any relationship, people. Communication
Yeah.
will go a long way. If you just let fucking somebody know what is going on in your mind or
Yeah.
thinking, especially if that person is involved directly or even indirectly in a scenario or a situation, communication goes a long way. Like that is like holy shit. That is the most black and white thing.
Comprehend it. At least, if someone said, "Hey, my dog's sick, I can't make it, dude." Like at the time, I'm gonna be like, "Okay, they can't make it."
Mm.
That's the first thing, they can't make it. Maybe later on, I'm gonna be like, "Your dog's sick." What? So
Yeah.
the comprehension comes later, but I always respect communication.
Yeah.
Like
I
it's
know.
really that easy. It really
Can't
is
get
that
nowhere
easy.
without it.
No, you wouldn't. But I think too, the other part that I took out of it, with communication comes value, right? And as you start to go down the longer path of any relationship and sticking with the entertainment industry and everything that you do and the different relationships that we all have, because we all in some way, shape, or form, work in the service industry or providing something to somebody's type of business,
Yeah.
right? There has to be a value associated with that relationship, right? And at what point do we as individuals, as entrepreneurs, as business people, but I think most importantly, as individual human beings, right? Because when we have our business owner hat on or entrepreneur hat on, yeah, we got to go out there. We've got to make shit happen for ourselves. Because if we don't, we can't put the food on the table, can't put a roof over our head. But at what point, because everybody's is different, do you cut the value out of the relationship? Or sorry, let me put it this way. If there's not really a reciprocal enough relationship that's holding the same value at a bare minimum of what you're putting into it, at what point do you just be like, yo, cool opportunity, cool scenario, but there's really no value. I don't see the value for myself to participate in this relationship anymore, specifically a business relationship.
Yeah.
What does that look like for you, Disha? Because for me, I'll kind of give context, if you will, as far as my vantage point. Like if man, if I can't be utilized, if I'm brought on, kind of like you were saying, if I'm hired, brought on to come on and help somebody do something, like if it's just an over and over and over again waste of my time, and I've tried many different ways, different means of communication, directly, indirectly, nice. I don't want to say not so nice, but direct, like, yo, what the fuck is going on here type of shit. Like if I
Yeah.
tried all those ways and I can't get, hey man, like I can't waste my time anymore. I got to go put my time somewhere else. That's where I'm cutting off a relationship from a business standpoint. would
Right.
be cool. But listen, I could only beat a dead horse so many times, so many different ways. That's what it looks like for me. What does
Yeah.
a dead relationship kind of look like for you, if that makes sense?
I feel like I've been there. I've been in that space where this is not certain predicaments no longer serve. They no longer serve my purpose. They no longer learning experiences, and they're not pushing me to go further. And just me for myself, I've had to step back from certain situations, from certain groups, from certain people, and let them continue on with their, what they're doing,
Exactly.
and realize that, hey, I'm not, um, even if I can be an asset, that I'm not being used to my potential here. I'm not
Yeah.
being an asset here, and I need to remove myself, or hey, I've told you what we need to do to go further. I've told you the steps that we need to take. Um, when things start kind of backlashing and looking bad on my part after I've put my 2 cents in on how to fix this problem, I've had to take a step back. So
Mhm.
this last year, I've completely backed off of a lot of things. I have turned down so many shows, so many opportunities, um, just because I've done that and I've been there, and I
We
don't
found out.
want to sit idle with you. And if you don't want to listen to my ideas to progress from where you are now, then I don't want to take part in it,
Yeah.
And that was hard for me because I love it. I love going
Mhm.
there. I love being with the artists. I love meeting new people. Um, but if you're going out 5 nights a week and you're networking, and it's the same. It's the same people. It's the same. That's things that I've been taking a step back from. And I'll always support my counterparts. I'll always support people and what they're doing. And, uh, and I say, they're just not enlightened. They haven't been enlightened. And I'm on a path of enlightenment. And I feel like, I want to be around other people who see my vision and
Mhm.
my vision and will let me. That's why I love CJ. CJ's like, whatever you want to do, but yeah,
Yep.
okay,
Let's do
yeah,
it.
you know what I'm saying. And we work good in that parts together,
Mm.
because he trusts me. He trusts my work. He trusts my word. So yeah, if there's not that trust, if there's not that, that fulfillment being met, I've just had to take a step back from people, and no shade, no,
Mhm.
like
No.
that.
Yeah, it's just
No.
on, it's just straightforward. This is just how it
We've all
is.
been there. I think I have. I'm sure Mikey has. We've all been there where
Of
you
course.
just some people it's like, nah, this ain't. Or you're trying to go somewhere and they're just stuck in the same place and just don't want to go nowhere, and you're
Well,
like, well, if you're not.
it's the redundancy. It's
You're
exactly
Yeah.
what Disha
acting
said.
like
It's
you're
like
the
if you don't want to come with me, I've got to leave you behind. I've got to go. See you later.
Well,
we,
it's no different than what Disha said. Doing this. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again. Like, where's the
Nope.
level up? If you're just chasing yourself in a circle,
Mhm.
Exactly. Yeah.
what are we doing here? Like, I'm here to climb a mountain. I'm not here to run laps. Like,
Right. Right.
two completely different things, right? I mean,
Exactly.
there's a
It
different
was
viewpoint, and
a lot of laps. I was running the same race over and over, and I became tired with it, and even with the money, like it's not even about the money anymore.
mm-hmm.
Oh,
Yeah. You want to
so
do something you enjoy.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I want to go further, and that's okay. I feel like some people don't understand or see my vision, and my vision is not all the way clear to myself all the time either.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
But I feel like I will meet the right people. I will, the right opportunities will present themselves.
Yeah.
As long as I stay diligent.
No, I
Exactly.
agree. And what I really appreciate, what about what you just said, Disha. It's kind of like, people that are visionaries. it's hard. It's like you're an oracle in a way, right? Because you can see all this stuff,
Yeah.
but to try and break it down to somebody who, let me put it this way, who is not ready to receive those blessings that are trying to be, bestowed upon, that the universe is straight up trying to bestow upon them, right? Like that's the difference between, a visionary and someone who can execute, right? Because it's a challenge in some cases if you can't comprehend on the level of the way a visionary is saying, even if it like, even in a way if it like makes sense to you, if you can't comprehend it to go and execute what this oracle, if you will, is trying to explain to you, then it's really all for naught. That, and or it might just mean that for whatever the reason is, the universe is not allowing you to be ready for those blessings
Mhm.
right now, right? And I'm a firm believer in that. Have you found yourself in a scenario, Disha, where you've had such a dope vision for somebody and you're like, yo, this just holy shit, this just works, right? This just works. But they, whoever you're then explaining that to as far as your vision, it like just doesn't register to them at all. And what's the feeling when you go through something like that where you can see it, like fucking Iron Man looks at it in one of the Avenger movies, right? Just on like the holographic 3D shit like coming out of his mind. You can just see it, but it just doesn't register with that person that you're trying to explain it. What's that experience like for you?
I like to call it like the Bobby Hill experience. Like, that's my purse, like,
Mm-hmm.
what I'm talking about.
I do, yes.
So I feel like kind of like that. I feel like a lot of people are like, this is mine. This is my project. And I feel like I've dealt with that a lot. There's really, and I've learned how to take it better. Used to, I'd be like, why won't they just listen to me?
That's what they hired me for.
Yeah. So, I've learned how to take it in stride. And, if I can't, and I go to shows all the time, and I feel like this is just me, and I'll be like, they should have hired me.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I
Yep.
should on this ticket. So, yeah, this year has been a learning experience with not taking part in so much, because usually I'm here, I'm there, I'm everywhere. I'm at this show, I'm at that show.
Mm-hmm.
And this year I've really taken a step back, and people be like, Disha, where have you been? And I'm like, I'm still around. I'm still making moves. I still, booked and staying busy and just not on the scene like I once was. But, I'm to the point where I feel like I need to bring it back to my people. I need to be
Yep.
traveling. I need to be networking outside of the realms that I've been in, so I can bring it back. And I'm not sure that once I make that big kind of switch and people, okay, she's on flights, okay, she's moving around, okay, well, she's with these people. I don't know how long it's going to take to really translate everything and kind of mesh everything together, but that's what I'm really focused on is bringing things back to the city, bringing new ideas, being able to be that connector outside of the city, because I know a few people that are doing more things and doing more tours and things like
Mm-hmm.
that. And I want to be able to be an asset to them. And, hey, I know some people in Kansas City. Hey, I know some people in New York. Hey, I know some people in Atlanta,
Yep.
to where I can be that missing piece coming in and outside of Oklahoma.
Yeah,
Like,
just connecting people.
that's my that's my vision for myself, and kind of where I want to go with what I'm doing.
Yeah.
No, I love it. It's and it ties back into what we were talking about earlier when Discreet was talking about, you know, being that visionary that's going to go and try, when we were talking about going and trying a bunch of different things. And
Yeah.
over time, you know, from
You
what
realize.
the conversation that you were beginning there earlier, Disha, in the sense of I can go now try a couple things. And you know what? I've been blessed enough to be in a position where I could kind of, like you were just discussing, take that step back. You know, people's like, you know, where's Disha been? Where's Disha been? Disha's been in the background, recentering, regrouping, and figure out exactly what direction Disha wants to go in going
Yeah.
forward. And it sounds like that time that you've taken has provided you not only the value that you were looking for yourself as an individual, but it also seems like it's given you clarity as far as kind of what role you want to play for yourself going forward. And it sounds like, you know, being a conduit for individuals, being that connector, being that consultant almost in a way as well. And I think, you know, from what I've gotten to know about you, I think that's a dope role for you. I really do, because you know you are one man. I think the simplest way to say this is you're just one of the realest ones that can go out and put on events or work for themselves. Because again, no different from that event back in, God, it was either August or September of last year where we did meet, or this conversation today. I think the most important thing that somebody could ever give themselves, especially when you're an entrepreneur and you're doing your own show, running your own show, is the clarity of knowing what direction to move in. And I think that's dope for you, because I'm a firm believer that once you really find out exactly what that is, like, you know, 80% of what you're going to do is going to be, you know, that clarity that you now have, right? Like another 20% might be just some missing pieces or just some shit that you're going to do here and there along the way because you're maybe helping somebody out or you're helping yourself out or whatever the case might be, right? And I think when you can kind of find that, let's just call it an 80-20 rule of, yo, I'm going to be focusing on this 80% of the time. I think that's really when the floodgates can open for you, because you're able to see things in a way as a visionary that is not clouded anymore. Is that a fair statement to make, kind of where you're at right now, Disha?
Yeah, like it's like no convoluted, like it's not convoluted, you know,
Yeah.
like I feel good, you know, like I thought that I would feel terrible, like, oh man, you know, they're gonna miss me and I should be here and this is important to the city and I've just had to sit with myself and be like, girl, all that's gonna still be there. It's all gonna still be there. You know, I had to kind of buckle in and, you know, I had things going on in my personal life too that I have to kind of restructure. And so during that restructuring at my personal life, you know, I said, I'm going to just restructure everything. I'm going to restructure the way I do business, the way that, you know, the people that I work with, and the things that I'm doing to really position myself for growth.
Exactly. I like it.
That's true, because life at the end of the day and anything that we do, it's a game of chess, right? It's not checkers. For some people it may be, but if you're trying to play the game that we're all playing, and certainly Disha is, as we're talking about here today, you've got to strategize. You've got to have a 5-year plan. You've got to have a 10-year plan, because you got to have something to work towards. Otherwise, like you were talking about earlier, you're going to find yourself just running in the same circles, because that's all you know. That's where you get comfortable. And it's easy to run in laps when you're comfortable. But it takes another type of person to get out of their comfort zone, to keep climbing up when, you know, the oxygen is getting a little thinner. You're breathing a little heavier. You know, you're a little scared of seeing how far you actually are off the ground, because that fall for some could be quite a long fall. But if you do take that step back and you analyze and you really know what direction that you want to go and how you're going to get there 3 years, 5 years, 10 years down the road, and if you just execute that on a daily basis and stay on the path that you set for yourself, that's the beauty of being a visionary. Envisioning that shit and then walking that path. The difference is executing that, right?
A lot of people think there's one plan and okay, this is the plan, this is how we're going to execute it. And for me, that's just not realistic.
Mm-hmm.
I have to have a playbook. I have to have a playbook of a lot of different plans for a lot of different scenarios, because not every play works for every, when you're playing sports, you may not want to run this type of play during this,
And things can happen in life that alter. Like you've got to change your plans because of things that happen.
Like I have a playbook. And I'll
Mm.
write on it. I'll be like, different types of teams for different types of situations. Like I could use this person. I could use this person. I could use this person, and this would make the ideal. And I have
Yeah.
time, like just brainstorming, just ideas. My playbook, and I feel like it's important, and I feel like every entrepreneur, don't make a plan, make a playbook.
Mm.
And I would leave people with that. Don't make a plan, make a playbook.
I like it.
I think
Yeah.
that's beautifully said, because like you were alluding to discrete, you've got to adapt. You've got
Yeah.
to adapt. And that's how it is for any scenario. You think of any major business out there that is still around today, that's been around, and I'm talking businesses that have been around for like decades, right? What
Yeah.
do? You adapt. You have to adapt, because if you're not adapting every couple of years, well, eventually you're gonna falter out.
Yeah.
The best example ever is Kodak.
Yeah.
Kodak, the film company, the camera company, once was
Yeah.
one of the most prominent names in business, and now they're not, because they never had the opportunity or the ability or whatever to adapt. So I
Yeah.
think you're right, there, Disha. That hit the nail on the head. You have to adapt. You have to have a playbook, because different scenarios are going to call for different situations.
Right.
And you can't be a one-trick pony. You have to be able to move in different ways, maybe in ways that you never even thought of. But if you have a
Yeah.
playbook, you're able to do that.
Right.
And I think that's a beautiful thing, man.
Yeah.
Definitely. It's like this is going a tiny little bit off course, but have you ever heard of the business Ineos?
Ineos?
Yeah.
Mm.
I, it
Like
would they
IOS?
Ineos.
No.
No, I tell you what, right? They they make so many different things from, like, they make plastic material and they make cars. They make so many different things, and it's just that they're never. If one of them businesses suddenly fall apart, they've got their hands in about another 16 different flipping
Right.
industries. Do you know what I mean? But their name is on so many things. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Really is.
There's levels
And
to
they
it.
own
I mean,
Manchester United.
being an entrepreneur, like you have to have many things going on.
I do
Yeah.
think people kind of gain seniority and gain notoriety is having your hands in so much, and
Yeah.
I feel like you kind of have to have your hands in so much to gain that notoriety.
Yeah.
Maybe just here, I'm not sure, but I do feel like you kind of have to be a little bit of everywhere to have that notoriety, and I realize that. And I realize that when I talk to people, and I'll be like, so and so. And they're like, no, I don't know them. And I'm like, oh, how could you not know them? They're in the industry, But, everybody's not networking like Disha, baby.
Exactly. And I think that's a lost art, right? I really do. I think because, one thing I've learned in my time, in the event industry, in the hospitality industry, in the entertainment industry, there's a barter system that doesn't exist in general day-to-day business, honestly. And I think, from what you were talking about earlier as well, Disha, if you can be an asset to somebody, if you can be of value to somebody or an entity or to a project, that will get you things. This is gonna be the hot take of the day here today. Being an asset and value in a way that others can't is of more value in some scenarios and situations than the almighty dollar itself.
Yeah.
True Truth or no truth, Disha? I'm gonna ask you there, and I'm gonna let you give your thoughts on that, and then discreet. I want to see if you're taking that hot take with me as well. Being an asset or value of somebody in some cases is truly of greater value than the almighty dollar itself, because you'll be able to buy shit with your value and your asset that dollars won't be able to buy. Yes or no, Disha, and why?
Yes, I have to totally agree with that. I do feel like I've did a lot of work where the dollar wasn't there at that time, but came later. Um, there's been times where it was just a good project. I'm like, man, I want to be a part of this,
Yeah.
And at the time, it wasn't about money. It wasn't about, but in that time, I met connections. I met people. Oh, I own this and I do that. And now I'm branching out. I done went here for an interview, and now I done branched out and got a location to shoot a part of the scene of a movie.
Yep.
Never know, what's gonna come, and like you were saying, that the barter system, the networking, and yeah.
It is true. Lost art, and I think a lot of people don't see the true value in that.
I totally agree with it, Mike, because like with all that comes the dollar anyway. Do you know what I mean?
At the end of the day, this is my
That
opinion.
will bring the dollars.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like the dollar is just the paper form of it's the same thing. It's a value, right? Like it's just a matter, discrete, that some people are literally going to value, this piece of paper that might happen to be $1 than the value specifically that Disha is bringing to an event or to a movie or to a project in general, to somebody's career. And
because without the connection, them dollars might not have come. So that connection's got to be worth more.
Everybody sees value differently. Everybody sees value differently, and I think that's the beauty of it, that we do create our own destiny ultimately, because one way or the other, good, bad, or indifferent, we attach certain values on certain things, whether it be a piece of paper, whether it be a relationship, whether it be a product or innovation or an idea that we have. Like it's going to hit differently coming, in our minds than it, like discrete, for example, like a point that we can relate to when you and I do a track together, right? There's going to be different value for me on the track than there is for you. Like when the bell tolls that we did last week. And sorry, I think this is just a perfect thing that I got to say. Like you told me, you're like, bro, don't do that track. And you said specifically because you didn't feel that the person that that's the inspiration for the track, and I'm really talking about, is worth it, right? That's your value on it. But I explained to you the value of why I do need to do it. And it's already done, but I guess ultimately why I need to put it out and why it's going to be a part of a project that the general public could go and hear. Two different values. We both love it. We both love the track, but we value it differently. You know what I mean? And that's the beauty of value, and that's the beauty of individualism, and the freedom of choice and free will, because we could take the value that we see in something, whether it's a song, a relationship, an event, a project, and we can attach whatever value we want or not want to it, right? And I think
like sometimes placing value is one of the most difficult things to really get a grasp for.
That's very true.
Placing values on relationships, placing values on your work. That's one of the biggest things that I struggle with as an entrepreneur, is giving a fuck. You think that telling someone how much money you want would be the easiest part, but it is one of the most difficult things I deal with as an entrepreneur is putting value on my work. Because, I don't want to be not paid right, but I don't want to overcharge someone. It's difficult.
It is.
It is. And, I always tell people like that, Disha, when they're kind of thinking that way, when, depending what we do as entrepreneurs, right? Because in certain instances, it's easy. Like if I start and become a part of a Subway franchise, well, I'm going to go sell that fucking 6-inch turkey for what Subway says I got to sell it for, right? But
Right.
when we're creating our own product, our own service, our own what we offer as individuals,
Mhm.
it is more of a challenge, right? And I think it's a challenge not only for us. Sometimes I think that a lot of the challenge, comes from people that we're working with as well. Well, I don't think you're, worth XYZ. You're just doing XYZ. Well, do you tell that to a lawyer or to a doctor when you go to a lawyer office or a doctor office? Because it doesn't matter to me, what is value, right? It really it's like the good old saying, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. Value is going to be in the worth that an individual sees in something, because some people might see the value, and I just want to stick black and white right here with doctors and lawyers, right? There is going to be a person who will go out and happily pay a lawyer who's been a lawyer for maybe 2 years more than someone who's been a lawyer for 25 years, because it depends on the scenario that I need that lawyer for, right? Like if I'm talking, somebody who is a lawyer that went through college, or excuse me, law schools to specialize in shit like tax law, for example, versus the 25-year lawyer who's just been a general lawyer. Well, and if I call for a tax situation, well, who am I going with? There's more value to me in somebody who's been specializing in tax law for 2 years than someone who's been a general lawyer for 25 years and maybe has taken a general tax case once or twice. You know what I mean? So that's the dope thing about value, but also that's the challenging thing about value, Disha, that you're talking about, because it's like, how do I set a value on myself? Because you can sit there and look at, the LinkedIns of the world. You can look at, different people who are doing what you're doing on a general basis, but then it's really like, well, shit, how do I attach a number to that? Because in some cases, what you're able to do it for, somebody might be willing to pay more than that. So it's like, what do I say,
I did on a job before, and then they accepted and everything, and then they sent out the list of everybody, and I was like way at the bottom. It was like production and cast, and I was like, okay, production and casting. I'm like, I was literally one of the lowest paid people on the project, and I would just had to sit with myself like, whoa. And they, everybody else, their quotes are, they're up there, they're in the thousands. I'm like, and they paid it no problem, I'm like,
but it's learning, isn't it? I bet that was a lesson.
We will not, bid that low ever again, but I wouldn't have known. And if I wouldn't have known how much everybody else was charging for their services, I might not ever known that my value was worth more than what I've been charged.
It's crazy. And I think also what comes with that on the other side of people like analyzing value, I think there's fear in some people's decisions, or the non-belief in themselves or what they're doing. And I know I talked with I might have mentioned this to one of you guys the other day, but there's somebody that I'd recently been working with, right? And I needed $5,000. I needed $5,000 to go make them $3+ million. $5,000 and some time to go make them $3 million. And I'm going to be very honest with you, to this person, $5,000, at least how they have presented themselves. $5,000 to them is like handing over a $5 bill to some people, right? To go make $3 million.
Man, I could do $5,000.
And I mean, this has been an ongoing conversation that I've now just completely cut myself off from. It was a conversation ongoing for 6 weeks. Like, what? So, like, I'm sorry. Like, and the crazy thing is, this individual is spending 6 figures already on this, let's just call it, project. Okay. And all I wanted was $5,000 to go make $3 million, which is going to lead to the greater cause. And I don't know if the person is fearful of the $5,000 spend. I don't know if they don't have the $5,000. I don't know if they don't have the belief in themselves, but literally $5,000 to go make $3 million. Again, as a visionary, I see the path, and I laid it out in black and white as well many times over to this other individual on the receiving end, and it's flabbergasting to me. It's perplexing. It's so many different words that I can really give it, that this individual, even written down in black and white, can't realize how $5,000 can make $3 million, right? Like, so I just
lots of ways.
I got to throw my hands up, and that's what I did. And I was like, all right, well, cool. I just, man, I can't fuck with this person no more, because
It's back to what we were saying earlier, wasn't it? Like sometimes, like people aren't willing to like come with you. If you know, like I can see this, like I can see that pot of gold up there. Can you see it? And they can't.
Well,
and you got to leave them behind.
Discreet, you know me. Sometimes I get complex with certain things, but this is as black as white as it comes. And when it's so simply laid out and you can't see any of it, or you sit here and you tell me one thing and you love it and let's go do it, but here we are 6 weeks later, we're not doing anything.
Yeah.
Hey man, I got other things I got to do. That's all I'm saying. You know?
Yeah.
And it sucks because especially I'm the kind of person that gets fixated. I'm like, man, just listen, you know? And you just kind of have to let that go. You got to let it go, or you'll be fighting within yourself.
Once you realize that, you know, once you see it, you think this person ain't getting it. You've got to really, you can't then carry on trying, if you know what I mean, because then you'll go insane. Like Mikey was saying.
True story. True story, man. True story. It's wild. It's absolutely wild. But no, I know we've been going for a little over an hour now. I want to start winding it down and get everybody back to their respective days off as well. But no, one of the last things I want to talk on and touch on real quick, Disha, which I think has there's been a couple common themes throughout our conversation here today. It's been communication, it's been value. And one of the biggest ones that I take away, and this is something, with being of value to others, somebody else, being an asset to somebody else, which is something that I look to do on a day in, day out basis as well. Be kind of like that conduit that you were talking about, right? And so I want to ride the show out on that. And that is being an asset to other people and the opportunities that it will lead to help you build your network. Right. And, shout out to Courtney Richardson of the Holden Court podcast. He says, you're, and a bunch of other people say this as well, but I've heard it from him, your network will lead to your net worth. Right. And the people that you surround yourselves with, the team and partnerships that you build along the way, the relationships that really do hold that value, that you can communicate with people, that you can have a reciprocal value in that relationship as well. That's going to lead you to some really dope opportunities. And we're living it. Disha, I know you're living it as well. So I'm asked this question and we'll write it out on this. How do you feel? It's a two-part question, kind of. How do you feel taking that step back as far as you clarifying for yourself what you want to do going forward, right? That we talked about a little bit ago. How do you feel doing that coupled with the network that you have built for yourself in the past? Is going to take you where you ultimately know that you're going, and the belief that you have in yourself?
So I feel like I've put in the work. I've already laid it on the flow. It's out there on the flow. So, I mean, that's why I feel like I can take this step back. I can take this time to gain some clarity for myself. And just what I want to do and how I want to present myself and my business. I'm grateful. At first I was kind of like distraught, like people are going to forget me. People are going to forget. People are not going to forget. So as long as I kind of stay diligent to the things that I need to do for me and my company, I feel like I'm going to get to the places that I need to be. And I have to be confident in me, because if I'm not confident in myself, who else will?
Exactly. Yeah.
So yeah, I'm grateful for the entire learning process of, um, my whole journey as an entrepreneur. I'm grateful for the good and the bad and the ugly, and I'm learning to take it with stride. Uh, I really feel like the next thing for me is building a team that I can depend on, that I can rely on. Not to control, but
Mhm.
to have a kinship with, a family, with. So that's kind of like where I want to be in the next 3 years. Is kind of
Yeah.
having a team of my own and being branched out to where, we're moving around, not just in the city, and, we're making those connections for the city.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. Because again, for the year and a half that I lived in Oklahoma City, excuse me, I definitely noticed the opportunity and what Oklahoma City and Oklahoma, certain parts of it as a whole can really offer, and it's a lot. And I commend you for doing that because it is a dope city that people sleep on. I do believe that, and I think it's only going to continue to get better and better, especially with all the future growth that is coming into Oklahoma City
Hmm.
in the next couple of years. It's wild. And I know I just saw an article this week that Oklahoma just passed a law where they're getting rid of state income tax for certain individuals and businesses and stuff like that as well. So,
No
man,
way. That is
yeah,
cool,
man. So talk about a tax haven for some individuals and some businesses.
isn't it?
Oklahoma is where it's at, man. I'm telling you, there's a lot of dope things going on in Oklahoma. And, Disha, you and I spoke on the other phone. We had some conversations. So, the one thing I appreciate about our conversation, I'll say it this way, is that, you and I seem like individuals that we can build a relationship kind of in the background like that, right? And there might be opportunities where, we can reach out to each other. And that's what networking is too, right? Let's not get it twisted. There's not always going to be a perfect scenario, but I might be able to reach out and be like, yo, Disha, I got this going on. What are your thoughts? Or you might be able to, hey, I got this show or this. That's what networking is. It's not necessarily always executing on a specific project or something. It's about building those relationships for when that right opportunity of the value that two individuals or three individuals or two different entities or businesses that can come together. That's where that trust comes from. It's
Isn't it?
having those conversations and building that relationship behind the scenes. And no different than I said to you on the phone the other day, I'll
Yeah.
say it to you now, like wherever we can fit in together on something, hey man, that's what building a team is. And I appreciate your energy. I appreciate the way that you move. Always have from that first Thursday, content Thursday that we had together. I was very appreciative of it then, very appreciative of it now. And you are the type of people that I want to be able to build with, and I want to walk my entrepreneurial path with, because at the end of the day, I think we can agree on this. As entrepreneurs, we are all walking our own path. We're all working our own path as well. But there are people that we encounter along the way that help us out in a certain
Mm.
manner that other individuals can't. And you're definitely the type of people that I want to have on
Mm.
that path with me where it makes sense. So I'm thankful for you. I'm grateful for your time. I know on behalf of Discreet, I'm gonna let Discreet get some final thoughts in here, and then we're gonna let you ride the show out, Disha, with what anything it is final that you want to say for the people watching outside today. But thank you for real. We're grateful, we're thankful, and we're appreciative to have the ability to have yourself as the visionary and creative that you are, and the hustler, entrepreneur, the grinder, the one who believes in themselves and supports themselves in a way that nobody's ever going to, because that's what it is for us as entrepreneurs and visionaries, especially when people are laughing at us like that shit'll never work. We're sitting here saying, yo, hold my beer, fucking watch me make it work. And you're doing that. So
Exactly.
I appreciate you. Discreet, any final thoughts of what you took away from today's show before we let Disha go ahead and write
No,
it out?
no, Disha, I appreciate your story because it reminded me of mine. Like you said, it started all after your marriage. You got divorced, and everything started from there. And it reminded me a lot of where my journey started. So yeah, I loved it. It's lovely having you on.
Already, I definitely appreciate it. It was really good to see you again, Discreet. Like I
Thank
said,
you.
Mikey kind of up the other day.
Mm,
Um, from the first time I met him, I did feel, that spark, that energy, the love, the passion for the industry when I met Mikey. Um, and you don't get that all the time. I told him from a jump, you're a dope artist. Like, I was like, who is this guy and where'd he come from?
mm,
So,
Thank you.
I appreciate you recognizing me and, just my vision and the things that I want to do for me and for the city and for my brand. Um, this is dope. I appreciate you. Anytime you guys want me to come on, I'm more than willing to come be a part of what you guys got going on.
awesome.
So yeah, like it's been a good experience. Even when I was on the show last time with CJ, like we have great conversation geared towards the industry, and I mean this is a dope podcast that you got going on here, and I'm grateful
Thank
to
you.
be here. So
Thank you. We appreciate it. The door is always
Mm,
open to you. With that said, Discreet and I have been kicking around the idea for our Saturday hip hop history show of having a couple rotational people
mm,
come in and talk about hip hop history, because the long and short of what we do is Discreet takes the week that we're literally living in and he just looks back, the 52 plus years, give or take, and anything that was pertinent that week, we pay homage to, we talk about it. We share any
mm.
past memories or stories that we have particular to something. So if you want to get down with us on any Saturday, you let us know. We'll pick it up. We'll pick this conversation up offline. But if you want to be a rotational guest, popping
Yeah,
out with us to be a third person on our hip hop history show on Saturday mornings, please, you say the word. We would love to have you as a
okay,
part of that rotation.
yeah.
Let's talk on that. We are going to continue to build in the background, Disha, for real. This much I know, because no different than you said, very similarly that you want to be a conduit to people. I want to be a conduit to people as well. And that's the truth, because I'm able to connect dots as a visionary. I think very similarly in a way that you can, right? Like we see shit and to be able to connect something that nobody would have ever thought of,
right.
really think. And there's some ideas that have spurned just in this hour plus long conversation that I've had. So yeah, we're gonna keep getting at it. But yeah,
Awesome.
open invitation. If you want to get outside with us Saturday mornings for hip hop history, let's talk offline. Let's make that happen.
Okay.
Isn't it? Yeah, for that.
Bet. I appreciate the both of you. Y'all have a beautiful rest of your day. Disha, you enjoy the rest of your day off. We will definitely be talking soon.
Definitely. Peace,
Peace
guys.
out. All
It's been
love.
awesome. Have an
Peace.
awesome day.
You as well,
Peace.
Discreet.
It's good
Peace.
seeing you.